Food is arguably the most important resource in Age of Empires 2, but all we see in game is just a single set of numbers. Throughout this series, we will be diving in to see exactly what foods each civilization prepared and ate, and how well I can recreate these dishes. This is Meals of Empires. So we're following the fall of the Western Roman Empire through the, 200-year period where it was slowly cobbling apart as Hunnic and Germanic tribes were coming in and just taking over the territory. That's roughly the time period that's in Age of Empires 2. And so we're going to kind of cobble different ingredients together that were traditional in Rome, but might not be like the prime ingredients. This is more like what the peasants would be eating and would be able to have if, say, all their sheep and all their cheese was stolen by a revolting army troop. A comitensis, if you will, just came in through the farm, took away all the cheese, all the non-vegan ingredients, surprisingly, just a coincidence, nothing to do with the fact that I'm vegan. All right, let's jump into it. We're going to start with the soup. As always, we start with the onion, a nice, relaxing way to start. I wonder in the YouTube video, am I just going to add like little flame effects popping up everywhere, like the little flames that you have in some Age of Empires 2 scenarios, displaying as the Roman Empire slowly falls. We're going to cobble ingredients together like flatbread, some fruit paste, a soup with fava beans, and start the sauerkraut that we're going to be finishing with the Teutons in a few weeks. And the soup is very basic. We're going to have onions, garlic, carrots, and celery as our base, and no broth. The carrots and celery are going to provide the elements of the broth. Then we're going to add some herbs. We have rosemary and oregano as our herbs of choice. And then we include the fava beans, and that should be a nice wrap of ingredients. And it smells so good right now. It kind of reminds me of like fall cooking, where you just have a lot of family and friends over. You're just trying to go for comforting foods. All right, next up we have our herbs. So we have rosemary, which is readily available throughout the Mediterranean. I have both of these fresh, the rosemary and the oregano. And both are, again, in the mint family, so very similar to what we had with the Italians. This oregano is so interesting. It's, I don't know how to describe it. It kind of feels like, or my inclination is that it was grown in a greenhouse because the leaves are just so pleasant. They're like, not feathery, but really soft. They look like they've never had a hard day's work in their life. Now the rosemary is far easier because the stems are nice and woody, so I can just pull back and it all just sits into my palm. That is a smell that I miss from San Diego. Rosemary grows so well in San Diego. It's just the perfect Mediterranean climate. Even in like malls that are often devoid of any plant life, it's just asphalt and some poor little trees that are put in the middle of the parking lanes. But rosemary, you put it right outside the store, and it just can grow a nice little hedge, beautiful purple flowers. And the last item to include is our fava beans. In Dutch, they are townboon or townboontje, and then you have fève, which is the French word for fava beans. Fava beans is the term that's used in the United States, whereas in the rest of the Commonwealth, the English-speaking countries, they're typically called broad beans because they are quite beefy guys. So this is a size, I guess there's quite a variance in the size, but typically the size is closer to these larger beans. And these would be all in a long pod. And first you would split the pod open. It has a nice white leathery coating on the inside. And then in each of these, you have the outer seed coating, which you remove. And then you're left with the actual bean on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and remove each of these coatings and then put them into the soup pot. The other thing I wanted to mention about fava beans, and I mentioned it in the recipe itself, is favism. It's prevalent in about 400 people worldwide. Sorry, 400 million people worldwide. It's generally people that are living where fava beans originated, so around the Mediterranean basin, especially in North Africa. And it's not really an allergic reaction because it's an enzyme that's missing, and it doesn't affect your respiratory system or cause anaphylactic shock. It's just a deficiency that causes your blood cells to deteriorate. But it also can help against malaria. So it has like that positive side effect that you also get from sickle cell anemia. But fava beans are still used in falafels and spreads, pastes. You probably want fresh ones because these are falling apart if you wanted to make a salad with them. But since they also contain lectins and other anti-nutrients, I chose to add them into a soup recipe. For the flatbread, we're just going to use 1 cup of flour as well as a 1/4 cup of water. That's roughly my ratio for making most dough, is just 25% hydration. And then to that, of course, we're going to add some salt to get it nice and interesting. But the flatbread is very simple. It's just dough that's smushed. And to cook it, you have a variety of options. And for this recipe, I'm just going to throw it into the oven. It almost seems like this is renowned for being a messy way of making dough. I try to be as genuine as possible when I'm cooking, and you can see all my failures. I'm really smelling the rosemary now coming out of the pot. I think I can turn it down a little bit as well so it doesn't lose too much moisture too quickly. Oh, I love rolling out dough. It's so satisfying. And there is our flatbread. Next up is to make the fruit filling to go with it, which will again lead us to our mortar and pestle, or in my case, my molcajete. The main part of our fruit paste is going to be figs. To that, we are going to be adding cumin in ground form because I don't have seeds currently, anise seeds, alternatively you could use fennel seeds, and sesame seeds. I think this recipe with making a fruit paste was originally meant to wrap in fig leaves, and then you don't have to worry about your figs being exposed to as much bacteria that's just floating in the air. They're somewhat protected. I love sesame seeds. Okay, so far we have not let any of the sesame seeds fall overboard. We haven't made any mess yet. So I'm going to see if I can continue with that trend. We just need to get them all into the mortar and pestle again without... Oops, that stuck to the counter. I'm sorry for that noise. Sesame seeds are looking nice and brown. You can see the browning really well, I think, right there. That smells so nice. Welcome to the ASMR part of this cooking, where we just enjoy some sesame seeds crunching. And maybe some cats yelling in the background. There they are. I hear Homer. Ow! Alright, so here's our mixture of fruit to go on our flatbread. And we'll just mix all that up. So for sauerkraut, it's pretty straightforward. You have your cabbage, your salt, and the jar it'll all go into. And you just want to make sure that the ratio of salt is right for your cabbage, because you don't want it too salty, but you also want to make sure that it's an environment that only allows the certain bacteria that you want to ferment your sauerkraut. We're going to use 4 to 6 tablespoons of salt, and that should be just the right amount. You adjust within that range for how salty you want your cabbage. First, I'm going to remove the outer layers and then give it a nice rinse. So I didn't make a mess with the sesame seeds, but I'm definitely making a mess with the cabbage now. But I am getting the salt well mixed up, which is what's important at this stage. We'll come back to the sauerkraut after we do the taste testing so it has enough time to sit. So I just need to dish out the soup, I believe, and I think we're set. And the majority of the meal, the main part of the meal, is we have a soup, which I call the fava bean soup. But you can see there's quite a few other ingredients there, which would be... Salt? I think I added quite a bit of salt, but I have not actually taste tested it since I've served it. So we will see. And then we have our traditional Roman flatbread. This is whole wheat, so it's not as, I don't know. It's still traditional, but it might not be as tasty as I possibly could have made it. I was going more for tradition side. Yeah. You thought this was like just pita bread that I bought from the store?
Looked like it.
No.
Okay.
And I did remember to add salt to that as well. And then this is a fruit paste that you can dish on to the flatbread. No specific advice on how you should eat it. Just enjoy however you like. That has figs and then 3 different seeds. That would be part of a fig.
Oh. Are you supposed to eat the
The skin?
crust on a fig?
Yeah, I cut off the tips of the fig, so we just have the skins, which I felt was similar enough in consistency to the rest of the fig that it wouldn't be a major concern in terms of texture.
Okay.
What do you taste?
Sesame seeds.
Sesame seeds, okay. I hear a little bit of crunching, just a tiny bit of crunching, and I'm not sure if that's the fig seeds or the sesame seeds. So maybe that's why the seeds pair well with these ingredients.
This smells great. This is really good. Yeah, I would eat this for dinner.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm ready.
So our rating system is based off of two categories. We have execution and we have should you serve this to your girlfriend.
How come this is folded?
It's folded because it was up against the side of the pie dish.
Okay, because it's folded, I'm gonna take off half a point.
Okay.
Because that's just not cute.
You're right.
But it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
This soup thing
Mm-hmm.
is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
This, although I don't like anise, and I just still even feel it, just the aromatics in my nose.
Mm-hmm. Too strong.
Although I don't like it, it looks really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And the concept is nice. I'm gonna give it a 9.5.
9.5 on
execution.
execution. Is that my high score? I think it might be.
I don't know. But for serving this to me specifically,
Yeah.
8.
8. Okay. Solid episode. It was easy to cook. It was quick to cook. I had a fun time with the whole storyline of the Western Roman Empire is falling. After we cut cameras, Abby's just going to lay on the couch and I'm just going to slowly feed her grapes. I mean, it's pretty basic at this point. We have our sauerkraut that's kind of given out, or not our sauerkraut at this point. We have our cabbage that's kind of given out some liquid. And as we put it into the jar, we'll be able to crush it or press it down and it'll be able to release even more of its liquid. So there we go. That's ideal. You can see the liquid that's all the way up to the surface. And that's how we want our sauerkraut to make sure that nothing's molding. Everything's in an anaerobic environment with plenty of salt. So it's able to ferment exactly how we want it to. And it'll take just about as much time as our preserved lemons, about 4 weeks, to come to fruition. And we'll come back to it. Whoops. Come back to it with the Teutons. And next week we will have the Malay, I believe. I need to do a bit more research on the Malay. I don't have them as planned out as I do other civilizations. But the Malay should include a lot of rice, some coconut, some bananas maybe, if that makes sense. I have to double check that bananas were around at the right time frame or if it was just plantains. And then maybe some yams, because that would have been one of the main staple crops for the Malay, other than, all the fish that I will be mentioning but not actually including in the recipe.